Today I want to discuss two big terrible news for all Anno 1800 fans, but fortunately I also have a great good news to share with you all at the end, so stay tuned for that. And no, the good news is not that Anno is going to console next year. Hello everyone, I'm coming back from a 1-week break outside of South Africa for the first time since 2019 before my daughter was born, and I'm sad to say that I do come back with two big bad news for Anno 1800 fan. Let's start first with the least bad one, update 15.1. It went out actually a couple of days ago on the 19th of October, strangely a Wednesday instead of the usual Thursdays or Tuesdays. But more importantly, that is 1 month after the release of the DLC, which was already very late. So this is a big problem for me because it means that right now, end of October, they basically probably haven't done much for the next DLC New World Rising, DLC 12, and for the final cosmetic DLC number 9, the Old Town Pack. And frankly, it's also bad news because I'm disappointed by how they fixed some of the bugs or some of the feedback that they got. For example, one that they tried to hide in the bottom over here fixed an exploit that allowed to apply multiple local department effects. Well, first of all, let's be clear, it's not an exploit, it's your fault, you guys. When you load the game and it's impossible to see what local department effects you have in your local departments, it's normal that you're gonna try to put a new one and then you get 2 of them. It's not an exploit, it's a bug. So obviously I'm glad you put it in bug fixes, but let's also be clear that it's not fixing an exploit, it's fixing something that you broke. And that was making the game really unplayable for a lot of people for this 1 month. What happens to you after 15.1 is that you very likely have lost all of the items that you had in your 4th item slot for trade unions or departments. And sure, if you only have 10 or 20, that's fine, but after more than 3 years of Anno, many of us have several hundred of these. And I'm sorry, but I'm not going back to put the right item in each of them one by one. No thank you. So I'm really not happy how they handled that big bug. And let's talk about the airships. This was supposed to be the big new thing about the new DLC 11. First, we were told that they would be able to deliver to all of the peers, right? Similar to the first airship we already had. We had an airship, it was able to deliver everywhere. Now with the launch, we see that the airships are only able to go to this new airship platform. That platform has a 2 ton per minute delivery speed, so super slow. So basically now the airships were useless, right, for resources. They were not useless for the mail, right, it brought this new concept of the mail, and then we discover quickly that the mail system is actually very suboptimal. It's a different storage, you can't do up system, you can't really do any complex transport. You know, I won't go into the detail again. If you want to do that, I've covered that in previous video. But now in 15.5, instead of really fixing it, their fix is a balancing of drastically increasing the loading speed for mail, which is now a separate loading speed compared to regular good. So no, they didn't fix it. The airships are still basically useless for most of your goods, except if you're using really complex things like only advanced peers, 1 resource per advanced peer type of thing. And the mail system is still suboptimal because you still can't really do complex trading and things like this. The only thing they did is increase the loading speed. And then the last one I wanted to mention is here. General improvement, that sounds great, right? We're adding a session transfer modifier to ship info tips. We're talking about session transfer, and in the past the only one that had it was a refer. Something that also had confused tons of people. It was indeed impossible basically to see it in game, so you had to do many tests. And now they're telling us they're adding it. But you know why they're adding it? Well, they're adding it because they found out that all of the airships have those session transfer modifiers and they didn't tell anybody. This is nowhere in any of the other conversations before, and they're actually not even saying it here, right? They are waiting for you to discover in-game with this new info tip. So once again, I'm quite disappointed about how they're handling this one. But don't get me wrong, I'm very happy that they fixed some of the crazy unplayable new bugs with update 15. But the reason I'm saying it's really bad news is, again, for a couple of reasons. The first one is that these are really showing how there was insufficient testing. Like for example, the Hermes was completely useless compared to all the other airships, so now what they're doing is reducing the money and influence cost of that one to make it a bit more competitive. Or the satisfaction range of the Arctic post in the Arctic, was different from the radius of the mail for that same building, right? Which was making it basically impossible for people to support both. So they're fixing that again, but this is simple testing things. Secondly, fixing all of this doesn't mean everything is fixed. There's still a lot that are quote unquote under investigation here, and some that are not even here, but have been recorded a lot of times, right? Like the Iron Tower quest that has been bugged forever, or the DirectX 12 that's crashing many people's game all the time, or even over here, the issue of the AI that was blocked at the worker tier, it's saying running into a progression issue. I mean, it's not a progression issue, guys. It's AIs were blocked at tier level 2. That basically meant that they were useless. Right, so let's call things what they are. And the worrying thing is that many people are still saying they're having problems with the AIs, not really blocking directly at workers, but going to early artisan and stopping there for a long time before moving to engineers, not going to investors. Some of these have been linked to mods, but also other players that play without mods completely are running into those issues. So it seems that this one, which is really a big one, is not 100% fixed. And lastly, the big problem again I have with all of this is it's really showing that with every new update, with every new DLC, getting more and more of these bugs. And it's of course really bad for all of the players. For example, I've heard from many of you in the comments that you took some time off for the release of one DLC and then it's unplayable. So, it was really all for nothing. But I also wanted to highlight how terrible it is for some YouTubers. Right? We plan many things around these dates, and for some of them, it's really their livelihood. But anyway, thanks again for the developers for working on these fixes. And sorry for all of you that are still having issues. Please do share those issues here. Also with Ubisoft, it's possible for them to try to fix it. For example, again, you can check the Trello board to know if something has been recorded, something will be fixed or not. And I think a lot of what I'm talking about here is linked to the second bad news that I want to highlight. And it is that Anno is jumping on the console train. Many PC games in the last few years have tried it, have moved from being PC only to also being available on the console. There's also actually many console games that have jumped on what I call the mobile train, by the way. But anyway, as I said, Anno will be moving to the latest console generation, and it was actually a small secret for the last few months, but now we have the confirmation. Why a small secret? Because the work had started in the engine, in the backend, so the modders could see it. They couldn't really hide it. In terms of the fact, what do we know? Well, it says release in early 23, and this is for the latest generation, right? So Xbox Series X or S or the PlayStation 5. If you want to participate in the technical test, you can actually do this by clicking on this link over here. You'll have to sign a standard non-disclosure agreement. I mean, this is normal. I've signed many with Ubisoft and you'll have to do so. It just basically means that you can't talk about it, right? You can't say, oh, this is great, or there's tons of bugs, those type of thing, until it's actually released. I'll put in the video description below, of course, the link to this if you want to click for yourself. But now, why is it a bad news for me? Well, of course, it's not because new players could join. Of course, I welcome new players, even if, to be honest, I really wonder how many new players there will be. Anno is a logistic resource management game, right? I mean, of course, we have, a lot of beauty builders that like to make beautiful cities, and they could say it's a city builder, but it's really not a city builder at its core. It's really a management. You have multiple islands, you produce and you move the goods around for this to match. And this is a niche. It's not a lot of people that want that. I think a lot of people could actually buy it because, they could see a lot of great visual, they could see a lot of hype, right? Good marketing, they could believe it's a beautiful city builder or something, but I really wonder how many will really play it for a long time. So I'm actually curious, if you would buy it, don't hesitate to share in the comments below if you're buying it, and also maybe why. If you already have the PC version, I will be honest and say that I very likely won't. I basically went back to the PC for Anno and I'm fully supportive of that choice. I think this game works with the mouth. So the bad news is that it does explain many of the things I shared around Season 4 being disappointing for many people, seeing a lot of bugs and things like this. But it really also confirmed my biggest worry, which is that the team hasn't started to really work on the next Anno game seriously. Right now the team is probably split, the actual gameplay DLC and the cosmetic ones, and this console retrofit. If they were also doing a new game, we would have seen the team grow. I would have seen a lot of recruiting adverts for the team and things like this, unless they're using another team, which would be probably even more worrying for me, right? Like if the next Anno game is not made by the main team that really knows the game, I'll be worried. On top of that, this is worrying because it means that for the next game, they may be really thinking about how do we make it console first, or at least, you know, as good for console as for PC. And again, I don't think this is really possible for Anno. I think this is a PC game, but feel free to tell me in the comments below if you disagree. It also means that in the future, the team really needs to now be split between supporting both the PC and the console. Think about things like fixing the bugs, marketing, etc. Right? They have to do both. So that's again splitting the attention of the team, meaning that the next game comes later or the quality we get is lower. I've actually heard some people is good news because it means that they have planned for more support for the game, but actually, to be honest, I'm thinking the opposite. For me, it's a bit more, well, we're done with the game, right? At the end of this year, we think the game is done. This is the last season. So now we can just spend a bit of money to retrofit it for the console. We don't have to account for cost of developing new things and things like this. And we can sell it and make a profit, right? Because the whole thing is developed, so it's just a small increase in cost, and then it's pure profits on the other side almost, right? So yeah, I think this is bad news. I really hope I'm wrong, and don't hesitate to share in the comments if you think so, but I think this is bad news. But after all of those bad news, I do have a great news for you all, as I'm starting a new Anno 1800 exciting series, super new, something never done. We'll have a completely custom map that I will create myself, not the same custom map we did in the previous series, right, of only the small island. It will be a completely different one, and we'll also use many crazy mods. Not mods to make the game easier, to actually make it harder and having a lot more. So we're gonna have, for example, new ships, new tiers of population, new production chain. In particular, we're going to introduce magic into the game. If you are getting ready to play Hogwarts Legacy and you have to wait, you know, for February, or maybe you want to see this one, because we're gonna have magic in the game. So please subscribe if you haven't done so already, so you don't miss when I start posting that new series ASAP. I'm also working on a few other games to show you, but please, as always, don't hesitate to share in the comments what games you want me to look at, and I'll definitely continue to do so because we cover strategy, city building, simulation games with guides, tutorials, and let's play. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.